everyone, this is Tracy.
And I'm Sarah.
And we're from Natural Short. We're here for another episode of our Natural Short Book Club. Right now we're in our retail nursery. And today we're going to talk about Hidden Prairie, Photographing Life in 1 Square Meter by Chris Helzer. He is the Nature Conservancy's Director of Science in Nebraska. He also sends out a weekly email called the Prairie Ecologist that a lot of us really like. So this is his little book documenting a year of photography in only 1 square plot of prairie in Nebraska. And maybe you can talk a little bit about how he picked that little prairie plot.
Yeah, so he has access to a lot of awesome prairies that the Nature Conservancy manages, but he wanted something that was kind of close to his house that he could go to on a weekly basis to photograph all the life that's going on in the plot. So he picked something closer to his house. Again, Tracy said it's in Nebraska, and it's just 1 square meter plot, so it's pretty
Very
small. And he wanted to select a plot that had plants that attract a lot of insects so that he would for sure get a lot of photos of insects. And so he selected a plot with butterfly weed and stiff sunflower. And he knew that those had really showy blooms and attract a lot of insects. And it was kind of funny how he talked about the butterfly milkweed, and it flowered, and for some reason it just didn't attract many insects. Maybe it wasn't producing much nectar. And then kind of the same fate with the stiff sunflower. A bunch of beetles came and like kind of defoliated the head of the sunflower, and then a different type of weevil came through and actually decapitated the sunflower head, so it never bloomed. So he never got those, but he did get to capture a different type of sunflower, a Maximilian sunflower, which did attract a lot of insects. So he did end up with a lot of amazing photos in the book. And
yeah, beautiful photos. It was just kind of funny because here's the example of the sunflower that its head came off because of a weevil. But yeah, he was constricted in photographing what was just in this 1 square plot. So around him in this plot was butterfly weed that was blooming and attracting other things, and lots of other examples. But this whole project is just what he saw at that 1 square meter. So for some reason, the one butterfly weed he had in that one plot didn't attract very much, but he saw insects on all the other ones around him. But I thought it was really interesting that he talked about too that he saw the same individuals that he thought in different instances, which I think we're kind of familiar with too when we go back to our different sites throughout the season, where we might see like what we think is maybe the same snake or the same nest of birds and stuff like that. So I thought that was pretty interesting that he seemed to kind of recognize in certain species kind of the same individuals, and that really, I think, kind of builds a connection with nature. You might have a plot in your backyard that you can go to every day and start building kind of those familiar relationships with the same species. So I thought that was really cool too.
yeah, he does a really great job. He does a ton of macro photography, so everything's really
cool.
up close, super crisp, detailed photos. I like how he talks about like photobombing insects, where he was photographing a specific type of bee, but in just the shutter of the camera captured a tiny little wasp, or the goldenrod soldier beetle is kind of photobombed too, which is cool. And I think that happens to us too when we're taking photos in the field of a certain thing, then you notice all this other stuff and you go back and
it's not until you come back and look at the picture where you might see a bunch of other small insects that you had no idea were even there in the first place. So I definitely recognize a lot of his. I mean, we're kind of amateur photographers here too, and a lot of the same challenges he had, we have too, where there's a ton of bees, but they just won't sit still. Like, you really have to have a fast shutter speed and be really quick and fast on your feet. And I also liked in the book where he separates things out by season. So he starts by spring, summer, fall, winter, and you can kind of see what he saw throughout the year. I thought that was kind of nice, and just amazing pictures. And he talked about the species he saw, or the group of species he saw the most were flies. And every time he came, he knew that he could at least find something, and it would be a fly, if not some of the more majestic, bigger stuff like monarchs and stuff like that. So I thought that was pretty interesting. He said he got 22 species of flies, and there's actually 61,000 species of flies in North America, and that kind of ties into our next book for next month is Flower Flies of Minnesota. So we're really excited to read that one and report back some more information about flies. But I liked his chapter on flies, where it really got me thinking more about some of the smaller things that you're not really aware of when you're there. A little bit less glamorous than that you're big monarch butterflies and stuff like that. So
Yeah. Do you want to flip to that page with all of the species?
yeah.
Altogether, he captured 113 species, primarily
exactly.
insects and
Mhm.
invertebrates. He actually didn't capture any birds, which is kind of funny, even though he tried to sneak up on the plot to maybe see a
Mhm.
bird. So 113 different species, which
Yeah.
is really awesome.
My only criticism would be that I wish he had like a list of all these species.
Yeah.
He has their picture, but doesn't really go into a lot of detail about their names, and some of them are pretty familiar to us, like the soldier beetle and stuff like that. But it'd be nice to kind of get a list of all the different things.
Yeah,
he
that would have
saw.
been cool to see.
But yeah, beautiful pictures. I think this is like a really nice coffee table book. It's kind of small and just has like really great pictures to flip through. Really beautiful stuff, and it really makes you want to go out to the prairie. I liked how he said before this project he would take his camera and go wandering around these giant, huge prairies, and then after this project he knows he really doesn't have to take these long, wandering stuff through the prairie. You can just sit down, and there's gonna be a lot of diversity right in front of you. And if you just sit and kind of slow down and take a look, there's species interactions and a lot of stuff happening right there. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. It's a great book. Check it out. Also check out his blog, The Prairie Ecologist.
Yep, for sure.
With the Nature Conservancy.
And tune in next month for Flower Flies of Minnesota.
See you next
Thank
time.
you.